Thank you so much for a good number of people staying back till for the last session. And we are talking about how to build a sustainable logistics solution for perishable commodities. There's a new entrant on the stage, and that's something that one of you will take home. At the end of the session, we have a lucky draw. And the people eligible for the lucky draw is farmers, growers, not logistics service providers. Thanks for my panel speakers. Peter, great to have you here. Been trying to get you since yesterday. So we have two airlines. So we have Kenya Airways, head of commercial for cargo, and we have Saudia Cargo. Stephen has been here since yesterday. And we have TradeMark Africa and Kubali Solutions. Initially, when I saw it, I thought it must be a technology company, but you are an exporter. You export high quality fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices. Great to have a diverse representation of the logistic value chain and somebody also from the TradeMark Africa, which is Aid for Trade. They facilitate global trade. Great to have all of you, and thank you for joining in this last panel. I think we have had the topic of sustainability touched in perhaps every answer that was given away since yesterday. Today, sustainability has become an integral topic of this discussion. But at the same time, we do have doubts, questions as to how serious is the topic of discussion of sustainability and how realistic is sustainable at the ground level in what we do. Sometimes there's also a kind of evaluation of what is being talked about and how sustainability is put into practice in our daily operations as individuals, as organizations. It's also time that for us to examine and hold a mirror in front of us and see whether are we preaching, are we practicing what we preach, or are we walking the talk? Like someone said, somebody must be saying that, oh, I'm using an electric car or electric scooter or electric bike, but how many times have we really thought about where is the source of that energy? What is the powertrain? Where is the source of that energy coming from? So it's a matter of concern for all of us. It's a matter of reflection and a matter of evaluation for all of us. Just want to get a quick comments from all of you in terms of building a sustainable solution for perishable commodities. As an airline, what will be your contribution to build a sustainable logistics solution? As a shipper, what are some of your priorities when it comes to sustainability? How do you make right from the production to post-harvest to distribution to logistic and to packaging and to cold chain infrastructure? How integral is sustainability as a topic in your business? But I just want to have a quick comment from all of you on this particular topic. How do we build a sustainable logistics solution for perishable commodities in Africa? Peter, you want to start?
Thank you, Reji, and thank you for having us. So let me begin by saying that from an airline context, we're absolutely committed in this sustainability agenda. I begin by saying that the IATA, the broad aviation commitment, is to be net zero by 2050. And let me just explain what net zero means. There is an estimate that every year there is a growth in terms of carbon emissions into the atmosphere, about 4%. The overall global target is below 2%. This is relative to the period between 1900 2021. Airlines are currently emitting, on average, a growth index of about 4%. So net zero means if you are emitting 2%, you also need to decarbonize by 2%. Then you're net zero. Decarbonizing is always not a very easy process, but we are committed to the net zero agenda. And there are a couple of levers that are critical from an aviation standpoint. So we'll be discussing a couple of them. But just if you look at Flight Radar just now, and you see the density of airlines across the globe, it just tells you each of these aircrafts is emitting some carbon into the atmosphere. And one of the major agendas in the aviation framework is sustainable alternative fuels. And the main issue there being that the availability of SAF is extremely limited. The demand is all over the place, but the production is currently not able to cope with the demand from the airlines. So overall, Kenya Airways is absolutely signed into the net zero IATA 2050 agenda. Thank you.
Thanks. I think since we are talking about aviation and the sustainability or net zero by 2050, I would ask Philip to talk about, because he's also representing Stephen, to talk about sustainability goals, because he represents Saudia Cargo. Then I come back to the other two.
Okay, thank you very much, Reji. For Saudia, we, especially when it comes to this topic and area like perishable logistics, that's for flowers and fruits and vegetables. Saudia generally classifies these products as special and basically time and temperature sensitive. So Saudia has committed to, as my colleague said yesterday, we are trying to manage our fleets to have fleets that are, or providing metal, as people say, that is fuel efficient. And this is by getting or planning to phase out our gasless, that is 747s, freighters, and mainly focus on the 777s and more efficient aircrafts in the market. But on a more deep dive into the strategies that we are employing to ensure that we are supporting the sustainability initiative, which everybody is trying to achieve. So we have taken this into two steps or two categories. The fact that we are airlifting time and temperature sensitive products. So we have strategies to address this, especially when it comes to time. We try and restrict the time, and for us, on-time performance is very important. The results for February indicates that Saudia, we really focus on on-time performance. That's, and February we were at 93%. The other angle to that is the temperature. So we try and minimize as much as possible the time exposure. We realize that in the supply chain, we play a critical part because probably we stay with the products for close to 16 hours of perishables. From the time we receive at the airports to the time we deliver at the other end. So we are very keen to partner up with the stakeholders, mainly the ground handlers, that will support us in ensuring that there is minimal exposure to the products that may jeopardize the products as such. And then, of course, we also have initiatives to partner up with the stakeholders that have programs that minimize on waste. We are very keen to ensure that our partners also are investing in renewable energy, green energy. So it's a deliberate effort by Saudia to support this initiative on sustainability. I know we'll discuss more on that, but that's my opening remarks.
Yeah, just to put in context, the net zero by 2050, which is the stated aim of International Air Transport Association, which is the industry association for all airlines. So net zero by 2050, they have a different approach. There are different means. One is, of course, the production and the use of sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF. As of now, the production of SAF is like minuscule in terms of the demand that is required by the aviation industry. Substantially, the production will increase as the demand increases. Like I said yesterday, do we wait for the demand to come, or do we produce as demand comes? So there is substantial investment going into the SAF production. The second aspect is about, of course, new technology, how better aeroplanes are being made. The 747 that we talked about will be phased out. The production of 747 is already stopped. Better aeroplanes will be made. They are like more fuel efficient, less in terms of overall weight. It's said that A350 freighter will be 40% more fuel efficient than 747, but able to carry the same amount of load. The third one is new technologies, innovations. Is there a chance for hydrogen-powered aircraft? What are the other new technologies coming in order to be more sustainable? And the fourth is, of course, is the offsetting and the carbon capture. Basically, you will continue to pollute, but then probably you will plant 10 trees the other side. So these are the different four methods by which IATA is intending to achieve net zero by 2050. That is just to put in context. So let me get Edwin talk about the importance of building sustainable logistics from an exporter, from a grower perspective.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. So as an exporter, we have to know there is a chain that is involved, from the farmer to the transportation, to the processing, to the packaging and all that. So for us, we know when we are dealing with perishable goods, they are highly, they can spoil very easily. So as we build the logistics, we have to consider the shelf life of these products. And we have to ensure, like from the start, from the farmer, the farmer does what he's supposed to do. And then from the harvesting, there's that transportation bit. Then there is the processing, there's the cold storage. So I will say what we need is to strike a balance between the environment, which is all about sustainability, to ensure the environment is well taken care of, to ensure we are using the carbon credits, we are using the green energy, the solar panels and all that. So we have to take care of the environment. But again, we need to find a way, or we have to strike a balance between the sustainability, which is the environment, against the people or the society, the people doing the farming, the export and all that. By ensuring maybe they have good working conditions, they are well compensated, the hiring process is fair. We are doing things to do with the non-governmental organizations. And then we make sure also the bottom line for the shareholders, the profitability. So I think the environment, which is about sustainability, the people those people who are involved, and the shareholders or business owners are also making a profit. So as you discuss about the logistics and the sustainability, we have to find how can we achieve sustainability at the lowest cost and still make something for the directors or the people involved in the business. Thank you.
Yannick, how do you look at this particular topic? as someone representing TradeMark Africa.
Thank you for the intro. As I would come back in and then say, I'm actually a consultant, okay, for TradeMark Africa. My field of specialty is sea freight. So perishable cargo by sea, controlled atmosphere conditions is my specialty. So when it comes to, like Edwin just said here, thinking about the shelf life, there is different ways already to make the shelf life longer, consistent, by incorporating more. Controlled atmosphere does that already to a certain extent, but only to that extent if the contents that are entered into the container are correct. It's not a miracle to work with. So in the sense that there's other technologies out there that are currently available in the market, one is Smart Fresh, is an ethylene blocker that already blocks the receptors of avocado, with taking that commodity into account. Controlled atmosphere conditions, you can actually set and minimize the oxygen level, which is standard in atmosphere of 21% to avocados, what are we talking about now? 4 to 3% that we can go down to. CO2 we can increase again further to another 2 to 3. More than that on the CO2 side is getting difficult, because now there's a balance inside the container that needs to be found already. Now, by sustainability, if the way I see it already is maintaining a supply chain and keeping it going, not just one time off that you have the quality. We need to have the return also on the logistics side. What's coming into these containers? Is it coming empty? And that's not actually sustainable in that way. But is it coming in with other commodities? Let's say apples from South Africa. It's a very good example of that, because it's coming in with CA containers on occasion. These CA containers can be repurposed and reused for avocado exportation. Does the container come empty up to Nairobi? Yes, unfortunately, yes. Could we do anything there? Yes. We could actually have the drop-offs here in Nairobi. We could do something. We can implement a lot of organizations, a lot of cold chain, again, that we've been talking about, in cold storage facilities. But it's not actually just the cold storage facilities that we need. I mean, if you look at it, it's also the documentation side of things. So when you come to the documentation side, and taking JKIA, for instance, also if you're not on the air side, for instance, you come in and then you have your palletization, either if it's done outside, inside, takes time. That one gate pass that the Askari or the guard at the end of the gate needs to release that cargo can take time. So it's also a matter of another analogy that I've mentioned once or twice already to a few people, is a hot potato. And a hot potato meaning when you hold it, you want to pass it on. It's hurting. If you take the same as an avocado going from cold storage facility to cold storage facility, you see the peaks in temperature rise. That's not doing any favors to anything. So we want to maintain temperature, and Veronica from East African Growers pointed that out correctly. It is most important to have cold storage, but cold chain maintenance. If you cannot maintain that, it's becoming problematic already in the cold chain, and would lead on to quality issues. And given that we're talking about sustainability here, if going back into it, it's now you're not able to maintain that quality, therefore you're affecting your reputation. If you cannot build up your reputation and build up that quality to deliverables, you will not get a lower rate of freight, because freight won't adapt to that extent, and to try and keep it going and going. And basically, if it was a Kenyan exporter compared to flowers exporters, flowers are starting from farm and able to control it from end to end. They have the market, they control it already. The problem with small growers, they don't have the market to penetrate. They are not involved in Europe. They don't have the setup there. So they have to work with other partners, with other wholesalers. Do they get a genuine price? I don't see that happening also. If I look at now the price for an avocado per kilo in Kenya, 40 shillings. 40 shillings a kilo. Now, if you look at a 4 kilogram box of 22, in Europe, for a price per piece can go anywhere between €2. So if you look at the supply chain and the logistics behind it, you actually have a 200% markup from when it arrives at port of destination in Europe to what actually is being handled here. So the farmer, the exporter, even the broker in between, or the logistics provider on that matter, is not actually the bulk of the payment that's needed. It's actually the money that's somewhat not transparent at this stage. So if you want a sustainable solution, in my mind, it would be from start to finish. Obviously, money and shortcuts do not, money will help. Shortcuts are a hindrance to this industry. And by taking shortcuts, if I talk to a few already of the growers, the exporters already, and talking about controlled atmosphere, yes, controlled atmosphere is $1,500. It can be sometimes more if you're going active controlled atmosphere. There's two differences between passive and active. We won't get into the details now. But given that small amount of margin coming into that adds on, I very much doubt that there's a lot of people that would rather gamble in this industry than paying the right amount, getting marine insurance cover, and it's sorted out, that they're covered on their end, that their risk is mitigated. And by mitigating your risk, you make it sustainable also in the long run and long-term goals, in my mind.
Yannick, quickly, how do we make the change here?
How you make the change?
How do we make the change?
Or
how do we start making the change?
I've been very, I want to say, privileged to have been part of this industry from the very first container back in the 90s, but then obviously I was not still a youngster, okay? So it's actually my father's generation that he did the first container out. Sunripe, a few key players that are still existing to this day, did the first containers out of Kenya. But the practices that were done back then to prepare a container is completely different of how we're doing it now. Technology plays a vital role, but also the over-information can sometimes be worrying to an aspect. If you want surplus information, it's getting tedious also, because then you have traceability is perfect. You want to be able to establish if anything wrong, where it went wrong, how it went wrong, what improvements we can make. But not everyone is getting the information that we need also. To share that information is great. Fake news is a big thing nowadays also. So how do you find the authenticity of that information liable? Who is the one that certifies that information? It's an uphill battle that's been fought since the 90s already, trying to get the same practices evolving and going further. That from 12 days transit time that we did from with Delmas from Mombasa direct, and CMB, Belgian shipping line out of Mombasa going directly to the south of France in 12 days. Those times are long gone. I mean, if you want those transit times to come back, obviously with the Houthi situation giving a little bit of a hindrance on that, and then the Somali piracy that's coming in, adaptability is very much key in this industry. Every year something happens. Every single year something happens. Be it the Ever Given that's blocked the Suez Canal, be it Maersk that had a cyber attack, be it that there's insufficient amount of containers or CA container boxes. I mean, the list goes on. But as a logistician and service provider and former freight forwarder also, you have to deal with these problems that you can get calls at any time of day. To make it sustainable is to adapt to every change that you can and to explore new markets, see where it is. But from the beginning to end, if you are able to control the whole aspect and follow it up, not packing your container and sitting on the beach thinking that everything will be all right, actually checking on and understanding the industry is vital.
Thanks. Fake news is in abundance, and fake news seems to be the good news now. I think it was something that was said also yesterday by the chairperson of the Kenya Airport Authority. The board chairperson also mentioned about spread some good news. And when I say good news, the good stories to be spread. Peter, we talked about the trade imbalance. Trade imbalance has been a topic. You have a lot of good things that are going from Africa, but on the return there is empty containers or empty freighters, empty airplanes coming in. To what extent the African continental free trade area, which I think practically all of the African countries have signed it. Do you see that as a scenario where there would be a lot more of internal trade that happens within Africa? Would that actually pave way for maybe slightly addressing the trade imbalance purely from an cargo airline operator?
Yeah, thank you, Reji. Just allow me to first add one particular issue around infrastructure. And Kenya Airways is currently investing in a major sustainability project. We literally installing solar panels across the entire organization. So all our processes, including warehousing, we are having a major spend on electricity at the moment. But the solar project, which cuts across the organization, is being undertaken as a major decarbonization project. On to the Africa topic, it's a good story and a difficult one. And the main reason is we're having very good policy instruments on the good side. On the difficult side, we're having very bad geopolitics. If you look at the Africa airspace today, you have pockets of countries where the airspaces are completely blocked off. So although you have a very good policy instrument in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, I can tell you, for example, for Kenya Airways today, when we are flying to London, we used to do a straight path through Sudan, through Chad, through Niger, into the Maghreb, and then onto Europe. Right now, the aircrafts have to detour and go through the Red Sea corridor. Now, for each flight, we spend an additional 1 hour, 30 minutes extra flying time. Now, and bringing this into the African context, I think we really need to deal with our geopolitics. You may have very good policies, but if the geopolitics don't support it, you'll have to fly to, for example, there's a crisis in Sudan today, and you need to get to Port Sudan. How do you get to Port Sudan? It's literally impossible. So, and this really augments the whole thing around economic sustainability. Right now, to put a flight to Sudan, you pay for a 737-300 freighter, you pay war risk insurance $80,000, even before you come to calculate the freight costs and the other operating costs. And this just tells you that Africa is really, bedeviled with all these issues, which are very fundamental to us creating sustainable platforms for trade. And my colleague mentioned economics, the sustainability. Aviation costs in the continent are extremely prohibitive. And now, besides the bidirectional cost balancing, it's really the geopolitics that are becoming a real risk. And I really appreciate the efforts. One good classical example is what the government of Kenya has done. Recently, Somalia was admitted into the East African community. Kenya Airways never used to fly to Somalia, and now we can dispatch flights to Somalia. This opens up a lot of economic possibilities for all our farmers here, and the entire agricultural fraternity. So I see, from a policy point of view, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a fantastic instrument. Kenya Airways is benefiting significantly in other spaces. We recently introduced new capacity into our fleet, and I know we are flying Lagos Freetown, we are flying Lagos Conakry, we can fly Dar es Salaam, Johannesburg, we can fly Kigali to Brazzaville, and all these opportunities are really reducing the air freightage costs. Previously, you had to come back to your hub and then operate within the continent. I think the AU agenda around this is a positive step. We're looking at for example, the average operating costs in the continent are about 4 times higher than operating in other jurisdictions, and by allowing those hops, really improves also the trade between the countries, and really driving this sustainability agenda. One thing around that is we also need to enhance our infrastructural capabilities in terms of multi-modeling. And this is one area where, as a continent, we are still lagging behind. We have a lot of landlocked countries in the middle of Africa. The only way to access these countries is by air, or in some cases, using road freight. So if we can enhance, and I know there are quite a number of multi-modal projects in the continent connecting the ports with airports, and these are really going to build better solutions for the movement of especially perishables. I'll give you some examples. The DRC is only 3.5 hours. Let me talk of Kinshasa, 3.5 hours from Nairobi, flying time. Majority of the flowers into the DRC are coming from France. So they have to be flown into Europe and then back. That is about how many hours? You're talking about 14, 15 hours.
Absolutely not sustainable.
Not sustainable. And this is why we are saying now DRC as a country is virtually impossible. Intra-DRC road transport is literally non-existent. So these infrastructure projects can really support. For example, Kenya Airways gets the flowers onto a particular point in the DRC, and then it's road tracked, and these are some of the projects that as a continent we really need to look at, because we really can de-escalate the entire cost profile for the movement of goods. Yeah.
Peter, you gave a lot of information. I just want to ask you, because KQ is back to operating freighters. How many freighters do you operate now, and how many are you going to have in your fleet?
We have 3 freighters now, and
All 3 are operational?
all 3 operational. The 4th one is leaving the US in the next 2 hours.
Okay.
So we'll be providing the Kenyan community with additional capacity. And one of the areas we're focusing on is really the Middle East. I know for the longest time, our shippers and forwarders have been focusing on Europe, but we see Middle East on an exponential growth path, and this is fantastic.
And these are all the 737-800?
800 freighters, yeah.
Is the 4th one the last one that you're looking at, or are you
For this year, yes.
Okay, thanks. Just want to get the others into the discussion. We talked about the perishability of the fresh produce, and then there is an increasing demand for perishable produce from around the world, because production happens one place, consumption is elsewhere. There is a demand for a lot of perishable produce. How do we strike a balance when you are looking at sustainability as a topic between the lowest economic cost, lowest carbon emissions, and the highest product freshness? So how do we reduce to the lowest in terms of the cost, in terms of carbon emission, but at the same time increase the highest in terms of freshness, in terms of freshness for perishable produce?
So that, I think, is the dilemma, because we are talking about sustainability and all about the climate change and taking care of the environment. So that question you've asked, I think, is the elephant in the room. How do you spend the least cost? Because at the end of the day, you're in the business. And in business, what matters is the bottom line. That's why even when we are doing the export and you call KQ or any other airline, bottom line, it's the rates they give you. They will talk about so many things. Of course, maybe after rate is convenience and time spent. But at the end of the day, as a business person, as an exporter, it comes down to the rates. What is the cost you are charging me as a businessman? But now, to do the things that we need to do, they will cost, of course, more to ensure the sustainability, to ensure we are using the best storage facilities, the best cold rooms, the best reefer containers and all that. Because there are people even who tell you, if you transport, for example, avocados with the reefer containers, it's best, it's good. It's safer, the quality is protected. But if you're just sending here to Dubai, which is 12 days, even if you use the regular container, it's okay. And you'll save about $1,500 per container. So for an exporter, if you hear you are saving the $1,500, you will say, okay, then we can just use the normal container. You see, it's all about the money at the end of the day. But we also need to take care about the environment, and taking care of the environment is costly. It's a costly business. So how do we strike a balance to ensure, yes, the environment is being taken care of and the cost is also being minimized? I think one of the ways is to embrace technology, to digitize as many things as possible, because I find like in transport, in export business, there's too many documentation. So my friend was here earlier saying even after they have done everything, they still need to send the original documents with DHL and send for the goods to be released on the other side. So if we can embrace digitization, I feel digitization can help us minimize so much paperwork or so much bureaucracy in between. And by doing so, we may be able to achieve the sustainability at the lowest cost. Thank you.
Let me ask this question to Stephen slightly differently because you are an airline operator. Saudia Cargo has been operating from Nairobi since quite some time. I think the number of frequencies have come down right now. Perishable produced flowers, fruits and vegetables, these are important commodities shipped out of Nairobi. Cost, of course, is going to be a significant factor in any business. You have to make money. When you talk to your customers, what are they giving you in terms of the feedback? And is sustainability is a topic that comes into your mind as they negotiate price with you?
Okay, thank you, Reji. I think, as my panelist here mentioned, it's really tough to balance some of these things, especially when you come to the customer expectations. Our approach mainly is to manage the customer expectations. And we have realized that in all these, when we share data, and it just supports what he has mentioned, using the digital environment to actually inform the customer in a precise and a timely manner, we actually are able to have some discussion with our customers, and they appreciate it. Because as the panelists mentioned during the last 2 days, there has been a bit of an issue with gaps in the transport chain or the chain, whereby there's no there are information blackouts. So in Saudia, for example, that we have deliberately taken action to have a stable and reliable information, and that's what we require from our suppliers, mainly the GHS. We really want the customer to be able to log into our websites and get information. So in actual sense, we realized yesterday also that people are willing to pay a little more if they're paying for the journey of the whole, they get involved in it. So information is a critical key leveraging point for us. And if you can do it consistently, on a timely manner, we can have a serious discussion with our customers, notwithstanding the fact that the cost element is always going to be an issue, and sustainability is very expensive at the end of the day. So that's how we probably could engage our customers on. But all in all, for example, Saudia has tasked, and we have a project ongoing now, the aircraft fuel lease, we actually lease from a supplier. Now, the supplier has, of the moment, tagged all the ULDs with RFIDs, which we are going to be used in Saudia flights. And these RFIDs, we are looking at the possibility, especially for a station or a station like Nairobi, which is a purely perishable shipping station, that we are able to get the temperature of the ULDs which have been loaded from the point airport to the destination airport. And hopefully in future, we'll have this available to the customer. That's a commitment from us that we are transparent in terms of cold chain management over and above what the customers have done. So these are some of a few initiatives we are doing to share data to our customers so that they can at least trust and actually pay for the journey of what they are ordering.
Sustainability is expensive. I think that is everyone knows it is. It is not easy. It's going to be costly. But I think there are larger topics, larger goals, which are like sustainable aviation fuel, net zero by 2050. These are big topics. But I think to some extent, there are certain things that are within our control. There are examples of airlines reusing the plastics which is used for covering the plastic covers used for pallets, which is sometimes it's used only once and then it's thrown and it ends up into a landfill. Over a period of time, you use it multiple times. So I think seems to be something that I mentioned yesterday is there is a consciousness in terms of what we do. There is a consumer demanding certain type of approach in terms of what he or she buys. So just want to ask the last question to all of you before I take perhaps one question from the audience if there is one. Are we listening enough to the end consumer customers? Are we becoming a more conscious consumer buyers, operators? If yes, are we also becoming a conscious operator of our business? Peter, you want to start?
Yes, Reji, and you're right. The initial transition is going to be costly. Where we see it as an airline, it becomes very difficult to pass this cost to our customers. You can hear our customers are very cost sensitive. And this is where we see an opportunity where through policy, I think through collaborative public-private kind of partnerships, we could have investments wherein including governments give incentives to entities that are driving the sustainability agenda, both from an economic, environmental, social point of view. Good example of incentives. I've seen in the US, I can't remember which supermarket, when you finish your water bottle, you throw it in a bin and it gives you some, not $1, but it gives you some money back.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it in Frankfurt airport. So Roland has taken me around. Yeah. I've seen it like you return the plastic bottle, then you will get some money back. Yeah.
Example. So that's just a small example of how people are incentivized to buy into this agenda. And on a larger scale, a lot of these gadgets, these equipments, they cost money. And somebody will have to spend on that. And this is where I see also, especially a very solid regulatory framework in how these decarbonization incentives are actually pushed out to the communities, and they can actually see there is a benefit in of course there's the environmental benefit, but how does it trickle down to where I am? And I think when we can build that collaborative mechanism, this is going to be a huge success.
Thanks. Edwin?
Yes. So, correct. So I think at the end of the day is, to answer your question, the answer is yes. There's a question, yes, it is yes. I feel that even the society, the generation, there is some genuine there's some genuineness. Everyone wants to build sustainable logistic and to take care of our environment and all that. So I think every one of us has a role to play. For example, even in your own home, if you are using a coffee can, you can use the same can maybe to put sugar or to use it to carry lunch. If you're using a paper towel, you can use instead a cloth towel. So every one of us has a role to play to ensure this sustainability goal is achieved. If it's in the business premises, if it is in your house, if it is government policies, government coming up with incentives and good policies, if it's the NGO, the private sector. So the truth is, yes, there is positivity towards embracing sustainability, and all of us have a role to play. No matter how small or how big it is, we all have to play our part. And so that at the end, because at the end of the day is a chain, we are all connected in one way or another. So if we all do our part, then we'll achieve the main goal. Thank you.
Yannick?
I still don't quite get the consciousness of it, but as Edwin pointed out already, that it is to for sustainability. That's another thing to work out, but I don't have much on this topic for now at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, Stephen?
Yes, for us, we consciously choose our suppliers and actually mandate them to reuse the plastic papers that come in with our import shipments. And I can report here that some of them are able to reuse these plastics up to 4 times before they are actually disposed of. But also the disposing of is they actually collect them and take them to collectors of this used plastic and use it for making other materials, like, for example, warehouse pallets that can be used again in freight storage and what have you. So that's one conscious decisions we have made, and it forms a critical aspect of the evaluation of our suppliers, that we really dig deep and request to see that they are actually conscious of these materials, because we're the ones who bring them here. Yes. Then again is the use of electric over the fuel operated equipment. So you will be rated very highly in our engagement with our stakeholders and suppliers if a significant number of your or your environment is relatively clean. That means you are using electric rather than fossil fuels, solar, for example. So these are conscious decisions that gradually is taking traction in our organization, that we need to really apply or try and exercise some of these sustainability principles. Yeah.
Thanks. If you have a question from the audience, I'll take one question. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for this very interesting discussion. I would like to bring the voice of the airports, because I would like to bring a complement to what Peter told on the effort made by the air transport industry since a few years already. Airports are, many of them, maybe most of them, are involved today in airport carbon accreditation program, which is held by the Airport Council International, and which is a 5-level label from mapping to net zero, and which made the airport reducing in a huge manner their carbon footprint. Ostend Bruges will be awarded level 3 in the next few months, thanks to a huge solar panels program. We will install 300,000 square meters of solar panels, 30 hectares. It's huge. that will allow us to feed all the airport infrastructures and buildings and warehouse and perishable center in green electricity to make the global chain, logistics chain, green in its production. So many airports do the same. I know that my colleagues here are also involved in the same program, and we contribute at our level to the effort of the air transport industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this conversation of the last panel discussing the topic of how to build a sustainable logistic solution for perishable commodities. What I can say is, as an organizer of the event, at an individual organization level, we are trying to be sustainable. We will make sure next time when we are around here, we will not have this plastic bottles. The lanyards that we have is that you have is fully recycled. It's produced out of recycled material. This can be recycled. These are small steps that are within our control. We are not discussing these at an international political organizational level where certain directions come and these are meant to be achieved in certain time limits. As Peter rightly said, geopolitics takes its own direction, and then we are caught between the geopolitics. We have seen how political wars and the political decisions have kind of created havoc in the global supply chains. We are facing that. None of us thought that war between Israel and Gaza would lead to a logistical nightmare of having one of the critical global trade routes getting blocked. So these are there, as I said in some of my earlier remarks, the man-made disasters, and there are natural disasters. We should be prepared. As we prepare for the next, probably there is good potential, probably there will be another roadblocks that will come. So as individuals, when you go out for shopping, do you refuse a plastic bag that is given to you, or do you carry your own bag, which is reusable, which is sustainable? These are small steps that each one of us will make. And as part of an organization, if you are in a leadership position, do you influence that decision within the smaller team? Or as part of a bigger organization, how do we scale up some of these initiatives? So with that note, I like to end this conversation. Thank you so much. And great to have this conversation with all of you. A big round of applause to my panel speakers.